Hello, and welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers. I'm Aaron Chapin, president of the Pennsylvania State Education Association, and I'm filling in as your host this week. Today, we're going to be talking with one of the leading voices in the legislature about the education funding that is being proposed by Governor Josh Shapiro. And then later on, we're going to be talking with two student teachers about what it's like to be training to be an educator in Pennsylvania. All that and more coming up.
Welcome to the fast-paced and unrehearsed weekly discussion featuring the leaders who help shape your world. Join us as we address the issues that impact you each and every day. This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And now, here's your host.
I was thrilled to be invited to the governor's proposed budget presentation earlier this month. It was great to hear his thoughts as far as education spending. Today, we also have someone who was in the Capitol that heard his presentation. And we were going to be talking today about the proposed funding that the governor is suggesting for the 1.7 million students in public schools today. With us today is Representative Pete Schweyer of the Lehigh Valley. He's also the chairman of the Pennsylvania House Education Committee. Welcome to the program, Representative.
Aaron, appreciate it so much. This is going to be great.
It is. It's great to have you here. I was really pleased to hear the governor renew his commitment to public education. There's a lot of funding being proposed for K-12 schools, higher education, and a lot more. So what are your takeaways from the governor's proposed budget?
Well, first and foremost, let me start by saying not only do I have the honor and privilege of serving my community as state representative and serving as chair of education, but more importantly, I am the proud father of two kids in public schools in Pennsylvania. I have a senior at William Allen High School and in the Allentown School District, and I have an 8th grader at South Mountain Middle School. And, you know, Allentown School District is one of our most at-risk school districts in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We serve more than 17,000 students in our school district alone. Historically underfunded, and we have, kids from 51 nations of origin speaking 26 languages. We have a, relatively speaking, high population of children with special education needs. We have a large group of students who are experiencing trauma and poverty and those sorts of things. And so last year, Governor Shapiro, and through his leadership and the work of so many great advocates out there, proposed a budget that began to reverse the trends of underfunding our most at-risk school districts. And that's what he's doing this year. My school district, I like to tell the story. There's a street in my district, it's the 31st Street Southwest. If you live to the west of it, you send your kids to the East Penn School District. Now, I represent both sides of that street. The East Penn School District is a upper middle class school district. Their high school is beautiful. They have new facilities. They have architecture programs, engineering programs. They have a emotional support dog that walks around that school. If you live east of that, on the east side of that street, you send your kids to where my kids go to school, the William Allen High School. That was built in 1917. We're chronically underfunded. Our kids do not have the same technology. They do not have the same class opportunities. And Governor Shapiro's budget proposal mirrors what he did last year in providing more than $500 million for school districts like Allentown that are the most underfunded.
Yes.
And he does so without hurting the East Penn School District.
Absolutely.
He does so without taking away from those affluent and high-achieving school districts, because the goal is to bring everybody up, not level the playing field by taking people down. It's a brilliant budget.
Well, and I'm glad that you brought up last year, because obviously this all falls on the heels of the Commonwealth decision a couple of years ago. Yep. Would you be able to speak about that a little bit more and why that's brought us to this point?
Absolutely. So there was a 10-year court case that was brought by a number of school districts, the Johnstown School District, the William Penn School District, a bunch of school districts, and a bunch of advocates in the community who were looking at those inequalities, the fact that a 31st Street Southwest exists in every county in Pennsylvania, where you could go on one side and your kids are in Methacton and the other side they're in Norristown. If you could go to Philadelphia and across the street is Lower Merion, right? Those divisions appear everywhere in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And that is just morally wrong. And what the courts told us, again, I just want to point out, it was a Republican judge in a more than 700-page ruling said that those divisions, the haves and have-nots, are not only morally wrong and bad policy, but are constitutionally unjustifiable. So Judge Dublier declared that the way that we fund schools is in fact unconstitutional, and told the legislature and the governor, you got to do better. And what we did from that ruling is we created this new system where we're going to continue to fund all of our school districts, but we're going to add money to the about 380 school districts that are chronically underfunded, or, and I want to be clear about this, this sounds a little political and a little Harrisburgy, but it's very real, at risk of being at risk. Because there are growing school districts in Pennsylvania that are having real demographic challenges. Maybe they're a historically white and affluent community that's seeing an influx of newly arrived Americans who are poor, or just growing, and the cost of growing. The funding doesn't keep up with the cost, so it's really important for us to do that.
We're going to talk a lot more about this when we come back from a break. So in a second, more with Representative Pete Schweyer.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Welcome back. I'm Aaron Chapin, president of the Pennsylvania State Education Association. We're here with Representative Pete Schweyer. Representative, let's talk a little bit about the over $500 million that Governor Shapiro is proposing for adequacy and tax equity. Can you explain it for the average Pennsylvanian that may not understand?
Absolutely. So it's not one of the biggest frustrations I have is that people talk about money as if it's just about the money. Yep. It isn't. What we need to do is put more teachers in the classrooms. We need to make sure our kids have access to computers with all the distance learning. You know, if your parents are at home, you know about asynchronous days and all those other sorts of things. We need to make sure our kids have access to guidance counselors, to support the myriad of supports that a child needs. We need to make sure that our kids are supported, and that's what those dollars are going for. They're going to help kids learn, and that $500 million that we did last year that we're going to build upon this year is being used by school districts across Pennsylvania to add teachers, to bring back programs, whether it's related art programs or a kindergarten teacher or more special education teachers. You know, that's what these dollars are being used for. And it's going to improve our student outcomes so that when you drop your kid off in kindergarten, when they graduate in 12th grade, they're going to be prepared for college or career.
I love to hear that. Having had a daughter who's just left the K-12 system, I know exactly what you're saying. Let's talk about school infrastructure. And I know, being from the Lehigh Valley, you're very concerned about this. What does this budget that Governor Shapiro is proposing do for infrastructure? Another
$125 million for school construction and school renovation. You know, we have billions of dollars of infrastructure need in Pennsylvania for schools. You know, people talk about, we've all heard, you know, grandpa down the street say to you, well, it was good enough for me back in my day. Yeah. You didn't have the internet back in your day. And when we're sending kids to schools that were literally built in the 1800s, we're not serving them right. It's really, really hard to take notes if you're wearing mittens.
Yes.
And I have my daughter's high school, and I keep going back to it, needed a $5 million upgrade on their heating system because their heating system simply didn't work. That's not a luxury. That's not a turf field so a kid could, you know, have a slightly better 40 time. This is this is health and safety and well-being of our kids and an environment where they can learn.
Exactly, Representative. And if we want our students to learn, they need to have good learning conditions.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. what are some of the top issues that the Education Committee is facing this coming year?
Absolutely. Outside of the budget, which is always going to be central, top of concerns and infrastructure, we're taking a very hard look at our teacher shortage. We are going to be introducing and considering a package of bills to remove barriers to becoming a teacher for everything from the traditional path to second career folks and everybody in between. We are taking a very hard look at transportation costs because, you got to bus kids to get to school. You can't go to school unless you can get to school, right? And so that's something that we're taking a hard look at. We're going to take another crack at infrastructure, as you said. And lastly, major concerns about the effectiveness and the cost of cyber schools. We're going to be doing a lot of work on that work.
That's a lot of great things. I can't wait to hear it. What are your, real quick, because we're running out of time in this segment, what are your constituents saying about public schools in your area?
Overwhelmingly very positive. More than 95%, 92% of people that have kids, school-age kids, are sending their kids to one of our wonderful public schools, whether it's a suburban, rural, or urban district like my kids are at. They love their teachers. They love their principals. They, generally speaking, almost overwhelmingly love their superintendents. And most importantly, our kids are smart, capable, talented. If we invest in them, they're going to do great.
Real quick, yes or no, we got to have the budget by June 30th?
Ish.
All right, ish. All right. Thank you for joining us, Representative Pete Schweyer. It's a great honor having you in the studio and talking to you about this. And after our break, we're going to be speaking with two student teachers about what it's like to be training to be a future educator.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Cross-State Credit Union Association. Credit unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, go to ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
And welcome back to Pennsylvania Newsmakers. I'm Aaron Chapin. As president of PSEA, I represent 177,000 members. 7,000 of them are in our Student PSEA category. These are young people that are looking to have careers in education. Student PSEA is one of the largest student organizations in the nation. And it's an honor for me to represent them. With me today are two of our fine members. We have Riley Artis, who is a student at Slippery Rock University. She's also president of Student PSEA. Joining her is Torrence Brown. She's a student at Shippensburg University. She's also president of the of Student PSEA Southern Region. So welcome to you both. I'm so glad that you're able to join us. So you're both student teaching right now, which is very exciting for those people that have not actually done student teaching before. Before we really get into the other topics, I really just want to know why you chose careers in education. So I'm going to go with you first, Riley. Why did you pick a career in education?
Well, I've always believed that whenever I saw schools, teachers, districts, they need to be with people who are enthusiastic about their career, willing to go the extra mile to create an equitable classroom for students to learn.
Sure.
It should be something for students to love. And I've always loved to be that person or that advocate.
That's right.
That, although I didn't always start out that way. I was actually studying to be a doctor. I was going to be in oncology, but I immediately realized I was thinking so much about teaching and kids.
Well, that's great. Well, I think you made the right choice.
I think I did, too.
I think our students are going to benefit. What about you, Torrence? Why did you pick education?
It's just something I've done my entire life. Like, I've always had a passion for learning and instilling a love of learning in the next generation. So it's something that's always been there for me, and I feel like that you have to be an adaptable person to be who students need you to be in a classroom, whether that's a teacher, a nurturer, a supporter, a cheerleader. And, I just feel like all of the personality traits and everything I've always wanted to do just has led me there.
Well, again, great choice. I've met you both and spent some time with you. I think you both have absolutely picked the right career. Torrence, right now you're student teaching in a kindergarten classroom.
I am.
Thank you, first of all. We all know that kindergarten is one of the most challenging areas, one of the most important areas. It's a little unusual of a situation for you, though, in this classroom. What's so different?
So I am student teaching in kindergarten, and kindergarten has always been my dream grade. If anyone knows me, like, I am very kindergarten focused. But I am with my mentor teacher. She was my kindergarten teacher 17 years ago. And this is just a full circle moment. She always says that she always wanted her students to love learning, and that getting a student teacher who has loved learning her whole life, and like, that's just so special to me. It's so special to her.
I was going to say, it must be special for her. What's your teacher's co-op?
Crystal Heater.
Okay, well, thank you to her. I mean, it really is full circle. How's student teaching going for you right now?
Oh, it's wonderful. I love it. I'm actually in 5th grade, so I am in a completely different zone, but
it's very different. Yeah,
it's incredible.
Yep.
Like, they're very smart, very witty, very creative. And what I love about 5th grade is that, yes, they're independent, but it's also, they still, they're young. They want to explore. They're curious. And it's just so much fun. I'm working with science and math right now, so I'm solely STEM, but my cooperating teacher is incredible. My experience with her students have been nothing short of incredible. I'm in a really wonderful classroom.
That is great.
I'm very grateful.
And what's your next placement? Because you do 2 placements for yourself.
I'll be at a middle school next, this March.
All right.
And I'm going to be student teaching 6th through 8th grade emotional support. I'm very excited. I'm a little nervous because I've never done middle school before.
Sure.
But I'm also very excited because I do love the older grades. And I think that's where they need that mentor the most, because they're going through a very crucial stage of development.
I'm sure you both agree real quick. It's just great hanging out with young people.
Yes.
They're some of the best people to hang out with.
For sure.
Well, great. We're going to have to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking with our student teachers about some of the things that are going on right now legislatively with our student teachers in Pennsylvania.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine. Podcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania American Water. We keep life flowing across the Keystone State.
Welcome back to Pennsylvania Newsmakers. I'm here with Riley Artis and Torrence Brown, and we're talking about what it's like to be student teaching. So I really want to get into the student teacher stipend program. It was enacted this school year, so that back in the fall, $10,000 to students that were accepted into this. And of course, as we mentioned, in some high need areas, it's $15,000. It's something that Student PSEA advocated for the last few years, but it was just enacted. So really what I would like to talk about is how it's impacting you and your colleagues. So let's go to you, Riley, because I believe you actually got the $10,000.
Yes, I did. Well, it removes a lot of significant barriers that college students face. I will say I'm lucky to have parents that are supportive, so even if I didn't get it, they would help me. However, as student president of SPSEA, the stories that I've received about how some students are sole providers in their house, and consistently for years, students can't pay for gas, they can't pay for groceries, rent. It's a struggle. And
let's make this clear why that is. So during student teaching, you're not supposed.
We're not supposed. We're highly discouraged from working.
That's right. Because
highly discouraged.
This is your full-time job.
Pretty much our full-time job.
Yes.
We're doing it 5 days a week, almost like a 9 to 5. And while we love it, it's a wonderful experience. Students shouldn't have to worry about how am I going to have dinner? How am I going to pay for gas? How am I going to pay my rent on time without getting in trouble with my landlord?
Especially when we have lots of other internships where students are getting paid. And student teaching was the basically lone example. They weren't getting paid. So you were very thankful to be getting that. Torrence, on the other hand, unfortunately, you found out that you did not you weren't accepted into that.
I was not.
Must have been awful.
It was. So there were 4,000 student teachers that applied, and only about 2,100 have received it. So this is definitely an equity issue. Student teachers are still across Pennsylvania being held to the same standards with the same expectations, while some get a $10,000 to $15,000 cushion for basic necessities and others don't. And also mentor teachers get a stipend as well. So it's also not fair to them when they're putting in the same work but not getting properly compensated on the back end. So there's just a multitude of different things that are working against student teachers right now. And to combat the student teacher shortage, we need ways to ensure that kids want to go into this field and they want to make a career out of this. And student teaching was discouraging up until now.
So we've obviously, this program just enacted. It's just put into place this year. We had $20 million. The governor is proposing $40 million, so doubling this money. He's very proud of this program, as well as the other legislators that made it happen. $40 million, but obviously, this still isn't going to fix the problem. Torrence, do you have any idea how much money would be needed in order for all student teachers, just this year alone, to be covered?
About $50 million. Okay. So we have made great strides so far in, increasing our budget every year, but, it's still not enough. And, to make this an even playing field across the board for student teachers, we need about $50 million. And
this program is going to be back next year. And I assume, Riley, you've communicated this with your members, your student members,
yes,
that are preparing for next year. Yes. What's their feeling as this deadline is looming sometime this spring to apply?
I think a lot of people are scared because they're worried that they're not going to get it, because it is competitive. It's first come, first serve. And that's why it's so important and significant that we fully fund as much as we can, or advocate for that funding.
Yeah, and it's important, you stressed it's first come, first serve.
Yes.
So I assume our student members in PSEA are going to be notified and given that information, and you're sharing these stories, both of you, with the people that you represent in your different areas of the state.
Absolutely.
All right, so shifting gears a little bit, you're part of, as we said, part of Student PSEA. It's a great organization. It's one of the largest student organizations in the state. You have a student conference that's coming up at the end of March, right?
Yes.
In State College. And then I think, a week later, you're doing Outreach to Teach. Can you explain a little bit, Riley, about that? And then we'll see.
Yeah, of course. So Outreach to Teach is our statewide community service project where we beautify a school. This includes, maybe we clean some old things and replace it with something new. Sometimes we repaint the walls or even add a mural. Sometimes we supply with new resources. We're starting to implement this at the region level as well, because our model did change this year, but this just includes more opportunities to give back to schools who have given so much to us.
So we have about a minute to go. You guys did this, your organization did this last year. Where were you last year?
We were at Hamilton Elementary School in Lancaster School District. You just want the school to reflect how your students look when they come into your schools, and you want them to be excited to walk into their building. So just adding a little bit of positivity or beautification, like, it just reflects the students that are getting to spend time in the building every day.
And where's the next one going to be?
We're going to be in New Kensington.
New Kensington. Well, that is an amazing. I've seen the work that your organization has done over the last few years. It's an amazing thing. I really want to just extend my appreciation for you coming in today and just explaining what it's like being a student teacher. I think it's something that a lot of our fellow Pennsylvanians don't know. Unfortunately, though, we are all out of time. So thank you for joining us for today's Pennsylvania Newsmakers. I hope we see you back here next week. I've been Aaron Chapin. Thank you again, and have a great weekend.